Hello there, I'm Koosh, and today we're going to be talking about how I gear my DPS. And I'm just going to be honest with you, this one's probably going to be a lot longer than my tank video was just because there's a lot more detail. So of course, we're going to be starting with our PowerTech DPS. The first thing I look at when I'm gearing a DPS or when there's a new expansion or like new gear tier, we need to know how many stats we need to hit the accuracy rating of 110%. Long story short, 110%, you don't miss. Under 110, you got a chance to miss. So the first thing you want to do is hit your accuracy to 110%. So I have a little cheat sheet here. So to hit 110% accuracy, we need to be at 2720. Now, real quick, if the sheet looks super confusing, let me just break it down. So essentially, this sheet is telling you what gear pieces you need to fill X stat with what type of augments you're using. So most endgame builds, you're going to be using your gold augs, which are your best, or your purple augs, which are like our second best. And this is also breaking down because our implants, which are also our legendaries, they have crit or alacrity, depending on which one you're using. So for my PowerTech, I know I'm using crit and alacrity plus gold aug, so I would look at this one. Say I'm playing like a jug DPS where I know I'm going to be having 2 crit legendaries and also I'm going to be having purple augs, I would look at this tier. Unfortunately, I don't know who to credit who made this. Scooby posted it in our team Discord. Thank you, Scooby. I don't know if they actually made it or not, or where they found it. Sorry if you made this and I'm not crediting you because this is incredible. So a quick disclaimer, the exact accuracy number to hit 110% is 2694, but because we're unable to mod our gear in terms of like literally putting in mods and fine tuning, the gear pieces we get already have set stats, so we're going to be a little bit over that threshold, but that's okay. This is the closest we can get with how we're going to build. So the first thing I'm looking at here is our accuracy, 2720. Accuracy pieces we need 4, and that will also include the stim. So there is 1 accuracy piece, there is 2 accuracy pieces, and then I just did my earpiece as accuracy, and this is another thing that will streamline your gear where I'm just going to be using this on all of my DPS. And there is our 4th accuracy piece. So when we look at this, we have 4 accuracy pieces. We're at 109.33%. We click on our stim, and boom! 2720, we're not missing! So back on our little cheat sheet, we can do a big cross out there. So alacrity basically is your global cooldown reduction, or like how fast you can channel stuff. As a DPS, you want a 1.4 GCD. And this is the bare minimum of how to hit a 1.4 global cooldown. I will say though, because of ping and like server lag, it is recommended to go over this threshold just to make up for that. We got our 4 pieces in our stim for our accuracy out of the way. Now to hit our alacrity threshold, what do we need here? So we need 2 alacrity pieces. We need 2 alacrity augments, and one of our legendaries is going to be alacrity. So here's our 1 alacrity piece. Here is 2 alacrity piece. Offhands, from what I've seen, are all alacrity. I think you do have the option to get a crit one. I've just always gone offhand alacrity, so I know I'm crossing that off as one of my alacrity pieces. So I would recommend offhand, always alacrity. And then because we are a PowerTech, our 3rd alacrity piece is going to be from one of our legendaries. On that sheet, it's 2 alacrity augs to hit our bare minimum 1.4, but I run a little extra, so I have 1 more alacrity aug, just so I'm over that threshold, and it kind of makes up for ping errors. Also, because most of my DPS are going to run the same alacrity, these 3 pieces, I need to be universal for all my tunes, so they're going to hold the alacrity. So we'll put our alacrity augs in my relics. So this would get you your 2065 to hit that bare minimum, but then like I said, I'm going to be running that extra one, so I have a little bit more alacrity. We got our accuracy, we got our alacrity, and now it's time for the crit kaboom! Now, if you're familiar with the Theory Crafter Discord, this is the point where they say, the rest into crit. And literally what they mean is, you hit your A, you hit your B, throw the rest into crit! So, we got crit, 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 crit. Big ol' critties. So we're going to have 11 crit augments and 3 alacrity augments. Now let me put these back in and hopefully I don't accidentally destroy anything. So now with everything in there, our alacrity 2195, because again, we're a little bit over that 1.4 threshold to make up for ping. Accuracy is 110. Again, that one is just a little bit over because we cannot modify our gear in terms of our enhancements, our mods, and our armor rings. Our crit rating is 3426. So similar to my tanks, how I'm going to streamline this is we have our core pieces where our flex slots are obviously going to be the DPS implants, and then we have our offhand and main hand are going to be a little different, and then the gear I'm going to have for my alacrity augments is going to be my earpiece and then my relics. Okay, so now we are jumping over to my Marauder, and I know my Marauder is going to run 1.4, and it has crit and alacrity legendaries. This one's easy. All of my core gear that I would use for my power tech comes over. Then we have my main hand, which is crit, similar to my blaster. And then I have my offhand, that is alacrity, similar to my PT offhand. And then we have our tactical, and then implants are the same as PT in terms of alacrity and crit. Boom, boom. Let's throw this gear on. And just to be sure, we have our 2195 and we have our 110. And our Marauder is ready to go. Now we're going to be on our Sin DPS playing Hatred, not that other spec. Very similar to PT. Our Hatred DPS also has crit and alacrity implants. So we'll bring over all that core gear, easy peasy. Then our main hand, which is crit, and then our offhand, which is alacrity. And then boom, boom, boom. Okay, so we got all of our gear on. Let's go to details. We got our alacrity hit. We got our accuracy hit. And then we can swing away. Okay, so far, this build has worked fantastic for DPS that are using crit and alacrity augments that also want roughly the same alacrity. But now we're going to go to Jug, where we're going to get a little bit of a curveball. We use Fearless Victor package, which is crit rating, and then also Champion's Precision package, which is also crit rating. So this throws a little curveball into our plans because we're losing one alacrity stat. So if you're thinking, oh my god, Kush, how do we get? Not so fast. Because we're very smart, we identify that we're losing an alacrity piece for crit. So what we need to do is have an extra alacrity piece. Is okay? All right, sure, fine, great, wonderful. Wait a second. I can give up this crit piece for one alacrity piece to make up for this difference. Because everything else is the same. Our main hand is crit. Our offhand is alacrity. We're going to be rocking that same accuracy piece. Oh god, they're both crit. Everything we've learned so far has been alacrity and crit. But that's okay, because we got rid of a crit piece for an alacrity piece. 110 accuracy, and our alacrity, 2232. A little higher, but it works. If you want to get super fancy crazy, you can always take out an alacrity piece and substitute it with the crit piece. But to me, and how I'm gearing, close enough. I'm swapping to IO, and then I thought to myself, wait a second. Most DPS specs, you're going to want that 2554, which I recommend going over a little higher. There's some specs where you have like an internal buff to your alacrity, so like Carnage and Arsenal, where those, if you just hit around 1123, you'll be at the 1.4. IO, okay, we have one crit, we have one alacrity, alrighty, so let's just do the basic stuff. Main hand, same as PT, crit, offhand alacrity. So one thing I will point out that I did a little bit different with my Merc, because we're a caster. So Merc, you usually wanted about, I think it was 2800 alacrity, and that was just because of how the spec works and procs. There was a change in a patch, so now we don't need to run as high alacrity. I think we want about 2300, roughly around there. So all I did for that was, instead of a crit aug, I just changed an alacrity aug for my offhand. Now, the last tune I'm going to be looking at is my sniper. I apologize to all you Sork mains. I really don't play Sork. When I'm on my sniper, I'm mostly playing Virulence. And for Virulence, we want about 2800 alacrity. But if you look at our pieces, we got the standard crit and then alacrity. So I'm going to need an extra alacrity piece. So we got our basic build. And then, oh, let's take an extra alacrity piece. One thing I do want to mention is if you're running a 1.4, good rule of thumb is you want to use your mastery relic and a power relic. But if you're running a little higher alacrity, your crit's going to suffer a little bit. So in that case, I usually do a master and then my crit relic. Again, like the others, they will have alacrity augs. We have our sniper main hand, which is crit, and then we have our sniper offhand, which is alacrity. So we look at our accuracy, 110%, and by substituting out just that one piece, we are at 2,800. But now if you're thinking, well, Koosh, I want to play engineering, and that has 2 alacrity implants. Oh, God. Not so fast. Let me show you the way. So we're going to be losing crit. We're going to be gaining alacrity. Just pop that off. We'll bring that out, and then we'll put that in. So that's all I do for Engie. I just go back to the original crit piece to make up for that extra alacrity. I'll be honest, I don't know the exact numbers you want for Engie. I've heard you can go closer to a 1.4. I've heard you want it higher like Virulence. It's felt fine and cozy to me. Last time I talked to Scooby, I'm pretty sure he just was running high alacrity. And in terms of sniper stuff, I usually just do whatever Scooby's doing. If you're thinking to yourself, Koosh, what the heck are these? These are just variables. Much like my tank, this is an alacrity piece, this will be a crit piece. And then I do have an alacrity earpiece, but I will be honest, I have never used in PvE. This is basically when I'm ever going to PvP, because accuracy isn't as important in PvP as it is in PvE. Now, the main reason I wanted to make this video is because some of the legacy bays I've seen, just in terms of gear, are things straight out of nightmares. It can be streamlined, and how I gear my DPS in terms of just I can swap stuff around and it's boom ready to go. I don't have 4 storage bays full of gear. It's just one core set with a few variables thrown in here and there, depending on what alacrity threshold I want to hit and what gear pieces are going to be put on. One other thing I wanted to share was a 7.0 tertiary stat distribution. Looks like this was made from Elsha, so thank you. The name of the gear piece, and what stat it will have according to what piece it is. You can also mix and match like your DPS and healer gear. That doesn't specifically mean only my healer can have this. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. If I forgot anything, I'm stupid and I'm sorry. Like always, feel free to ask any questions that you may have. I am here to help.